So we will welcome our last speaker, Amit. For
Yeah, hi,
knowing
hi.
your audiences and customer is vital, is super vital, especially knowing how to impact them of the purchase behavior. Amit is super experienced in e-commerce, and he's gonna share with us how psychological marketing will make your brand stand out in social commerce. And this is super early for Amit. I appreciate your time, Amit.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I'd rather be nowhere else, honestly. I appreciate the
Okay.
intro, Gisela. So should I just get into it? Perfect. So what's going on, guys? So basically today, what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you a unique approach to the way you want to apply marketing for your social brands. So basically, the idea and the main topic of this training is going to be how psychological marketing will make your brand stand out in social commerce. Now, this is the thing, when it comes to social commerce, a super competitive industry, you have to be taking extra measures, tactical measures to make sure that your ads and your marketing is standing out on many different social platforms. Now, it's amazing that I was able to follow Chris from Magix, because when you start applying a little bit of psychological marketing and you partner that with amazing softwares like Magix, the potential for scale and the potential to dominate in social commerce becomes a possibility. So I want to get right into it. I know I don't have much time, right? So my purpose here today is to create a fundamental shift in the way you approach marketing your brand in social commerce. Now, I know that's a pretty ambitious goal considering I only have 20 minutes. So we're going to dive straight into it. Real quick, a little bit about myself, and as I said, and the goal is about you guys. We want you to create a fundamental shift in the way you approach marketing. So I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. I've been a full-time lead generator and media buyer for a little over 6 years. I got started back in 2016, and my first successful vertical was e-commerce. And still to this day, that's my main focus, my main vertical. And of course, my main traffic sources are Facebook and Instagram ads. Some of you guys may know me from my Facebook group, Modern Wealth Academy, which has over 10,000 different e-commerce marketers and brand owners, where I share, all different types of value. And you may have seen me there. But basically from 2018 to 2020, I had a coaching company that helped hundreds of people use psychological marketing to break barriers in social commerce and lead better lives for their families, achieve, the results that they wanted to do with their brands. And you can go into my group, as some of you guys are probably already in there, and you can scroll for days and see kind of like proof of my, students' testimonials, brands, and different results, as well as my own. But basically, that's not the reason why that's not the reason why I'm here. Like I said, it's about you. And pretty much over this course of my 6 years being in the industry, the one thing I pride myself on, I wouldn't consider myself a master, a guru, anything like that. But what I do consider myself as is the ultimate student when it comes to marketing and e-commerce. Over this last 6 years, I've kind of prided myself on the ability to be able to outlearn anyone and anyone on any different subject, and be able to kind of integrate the things I'm learning into my different strategies. And what I have prepared for you guys today is amongst some of the most powerful concepts that I've learned and have seen impact with myself, as well as my many different students and clients over the years. So currently now, since 2020 till now, I now own and operate a psychological marketing agency specialized in e-commerce based here in New Jersey in the US. We are our own biggest client. That's something we pride ourselves on. We're constantly rolling out different products, taking products that have momentum, products that are doing well, shifting them into our branding systems. And we are always, in the trenches ourselves. But on top of that, we also take an additional 5 to 10 different e-commerce brands every single quarter. More about that at the end, but let's get into the actual topic, right? So in this training, I will introduce you to the concept of psychological marketing and explain how it will allow your brand to stand out from the competition, which is the topic here. And this goes hand in hand with being able to actually stand out. So some of the specific topics that we're going to cover are going to be the 3 different areas that control the human brain's decision-making process, the innermost temptations of the human brain, and then persuading and influencing the human brain to then go and make impulse decisions. So basically the main topic here, amongst all of these different subtopics, is going to be the idea of impulse decision and what the brain's processes are when it arrives at impulse decisions, different types of decisions. We're going to go through many different types and talk about how the brain actually conducts this decision-making process, and of course, how you can apply this with psychological marketing in your own marketing for your brands. So let's start off by kind of, doing a quick kind of review. When discussing standing out in social commerce, there are many areas of your brands that you want to focus on, whether it's branded storefront that enforces trust, custom packaging, great product quality, fast and reliable fulfillment, happy customers, and many more topics. Fortunately, since we're all already on this call, you guys are likely already integrated with HyperSKU, so you can rest assured knowing that they are pretty much the most world-class fulfillment partner that I've ever come across. They pretty much, have turned customer success into what I call like an art form, right? So at this point, from a fulfillment and logistics perspective, you already know that your brand is already built to stand out, making sure your customers are happy, having a great experience. Now, to fully stand out in social commerce, we arrive at the other half of the equation, which is the marketing. So say you already have a beautiful brand that is ready to stand out and make your customers happy. The marketing is how you then go and make it stand out. Of course, get conversions, get more customers that you can please and provide a great experience for. Now, so far in this intro, everything I've said is pure common sense. However, at this point, we come across a few forks in the road when approaching marketing your social brand, where I see a lot of brands take different turns where maybe they shouldn't be. So the way you approach marketing your brand is going to determine if you're able to stand out from the competition, or you're doing the same thing as all the other competition, and you're basically like competing on price and different types of offers, right? In an industry with extremely low barriers to entry and extremely high competition, standing out and winning in your marketing is more important now than ever. So the first fork in the road that I was alluding to is, what do you actually consider winning or successful, or you can throw in any similar word there, but winning marketing? What does that mean to you? Now, this isn't the point where most brands I see make a wrong turn. I think most of us would be in agreement that winning marketing, which allows you to dominate social commerce, revolves around one singular goal, which is conversions. Whether you do Facebook ads, Google, YouTube, Snapchat, whatever it is, TikTok now, at the end of the day, for the majority of the ads that you're launching, and whether it's not even just ads, whether it's emails that you're sending out, whether it's, a customer acquisition retargeting ad, an SMS message, even videos within your ads, the majority of marketing in social commerce is built and deployed with the single goal of conversions, right? And usually the objective that you choose is conversions as well. But as a whole, overall, that is what means success in terms of social commerce. You want people converting on your ads. We're not physical stores. People aren't coming in, parking in the parking lot, staying for 30 minutes. So the whole idea, the whole concept, the goal of this winning marketing or successful marketing is built around conversions, and more specifically, immediate conversions. So this is where it gets kind of tricky, and this is where people may not know how to approach how to achieve this specific goal, where you need your customers to actually be converting on impulse rather than taking their own time, taking 20 minutes to decide if they want to buy, because as you know, you have a tiny window of time to hold people's interest and convert them with your funnel. The last thing that your potential customers, any users on social media want to be doing is to be on your funnel, right? They're on social media to look at memes, laugh, have fun, connect with friends, but pretty much not be bombarded with ads. So when it comes to like our specific scenario, when it comes to winning marketing in social commerce, right, you have to understand that you have very short windows to go and convert people with your funnels. Now, of course, you can hit them again with retargeting, right? But even when they see a second, third, bottom of funnel retargeting, the goal is to convert them right away. Even if it's bottom of funnel retargeting, the third time they're seeing your ads or fourth time, you still need them to convert immediately, right? So the goal specifically when it comes to winning marketing in social commerce is always going to be impulse conversions. If your customers are checking Amazon, second guessing themselves, or thinking about price or anything else, or even just losing interest as they're going through your funnel, then you will likely lose the conversion. You're going to have to retarget them again. And if you can't sustainably be able to make an impulse conversion, then it's hard to scale sustainably in this business. So another way to look at this, right? The goal of marketing impulse conversion, specifically for social commerce, that's what you want to do by standing out. What are you going to do? You're going to be able to get the conversions. Your marketing must consistently be producing these impulse conversions to be successful at scale, right? And that's important. Of course, if your marketing isn't at a large scale producing impulse conversions, you might get some sales, right? But when you start to scale, and I know everyone here has felt this issue, when you start to scale, the scaling isn't consistent, it's not stable, right? You're doubling, tripling the budgets. However, the amount of conversions isn't the same, isn't consistent at scale, because you need to be consistently producing impulse conversions with your marketing. Every single aspect of your marketing needs to persuade and influence the masses to make impulse decisions to convert, right? Not just a couple people, but you need to have a marketing message within your ads, within your email, marketing sequences and everything that is specifically and tactically making people convert on impulse. Now, circling back to that second fork in the road, I mentioned a few, this is the second one, and this is unfortunately where I see many brands actually take the wrong turn, which is in their approach to building marketing that produces impulse conversions. So there's two different roads and two different paths that I see a lot of social brands and e-commerce brands take at this stage. I see many take the logical approach, kind of the logical approach, building marketing, copywriting, building ads, creatives, that based off logic, you think people will want, these things that you're writing or things that are in your ad, and kind of a lot of people take this logical approach, whereas I see fewer people take the scientific approach based in psychology. Now, when I look at the vast majority of e-commerce brands today, unfortunately, they're more operating like journalists or content writers within their marketing. Their goal is impulse conversions, but they don't understand what scientifically causes the human brain to behave in such a way where people are driven by impulse. They're building marketing that they hope will create impulse behavior, the keyword hope, right? By logic, they're doing things logically. They're talking about things like, oh, save this money, save X%, buy one, get one free, these types of logical things that you think would attract people to your offer, to your marketing. However, it's all based out of hope. It's not based in the science of psychology. They're operating more like their blogs or YouTube channels. Their marketing looks cool and professional, of course, but they have zero clue what actually makes people take immediate or impulse action, which after all is the goal here, which is what is going to determine your success in your marketing, and not just your success, but if you're going to be able to go and dominate, social marketing. So in reality, what they're doing is they're building marketing for people to consume or to be entertained by, rather than for people to convert on impulse. They might get likes on their ads, but find it difficult to produce consistent conversions, definitely, most of the time at scale. So on the other hand, I see a smaller group of e-commerce brands, and I'll throw out some examples that are actually functioning like marketers within their marketing. The goal of marketing is to produce an action, right? And specifically for social commerce, we want to produce conversions, AKA sales, right? But whatever type of marketer you are in lead generation, what we want to produce is leads, that's a conversion. Or, if you're just kind of sending out an email blast to your list, what you want to produce is sales, right? So every time you deploy any type of marketing, the goal is to get people to take an action, whatever that action is. It could be as simple as liking you on social media, connecting with your channels, right? But whatever you're deploying when it comes to marketing, the idea is for customers to take action. For us, that's conversions and purchases. So why is psychology relevant to this goal of creating impulse conversions? Where does psychology come in? And kind of like the best way for me to start this off is kind of go just straight up through the definition of psychology. I pulled up a couple, this one from Oxford, this one from, I guess, Wikipedia, but basically the scientific study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. And here's the other, version of the definition. Psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior. So there's a couple of things you can pinpoint right there, in terms of what it focuses on, right? First, it's a scientific study, right? So by definition, psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and how it affects behavior. Now, psychology, like specifically, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty, it's considered more of a social science, right? It's kind of on that border. But the reason why that word science is in all these definitions is because when studying the human mind, or otherwise known as the human brain, our brains and most people's brains are wired in the same exact way in terms of what are we tempted by? Why do we make decisions? Why do we take action? Most of our brains are actually wired in the same way. We have the same reasons for impulse, other than psychopaths, but the vast majority of people, their brains operate in a very similar fashion. Now, the other part of this definition is how it affects behavior, right? So this is where, and you can see from these definitions, Behavior is what people are trying to figure out when it comes to psychology. They want to understand why are people behaving in certain ways. They study the mind, right? And they kind of accumulate data and are able to determine behavior. Psychology basically allows you to understand and apply reason behind the human behavior. So you can explain it, so then you can reverse engineer it once you start understanding, which then allows you to evoke specific human behavior that you want. Right? So if you want to evoke a behavior that causes customers to make impulse decisions, it starts at the core with understanding psychology. Now, where are we going to start in terms of getting into psychological marketing is let's take another look at this definition, right? When you look at the first part of the definition, you can see that the human mind is responsible for affecting behavior. So we're going to start by understanding the human mind, also known as the human brain, to learn how it controls and affects human behavior so we can reverse engineer that process and figure out what causes the brain to make people act on impulse. So with the rest of this training, my goal is, like I said at the beginning, to begin creating a fundamental shift in the way you approach marketing, to shift you into the smaller group of psychological marketers, people that are tactically applying tactics that are persuading and influencing people to have these impulse reactions on their marketing. Now, like I said before, it's a science because our brains are mainly wired in the same way. The human brain, it controls all of our actions. It controls every single thing that we do. We behave and make decisions based on the human brain's temptations. So this is like the first term that we're going to get into. The human brain has a set of temptations, which it's always chasing. Now, these temptations, there are many different types of temptations. I'm going to get into a list of these in a little bit so you guys can kind of see everything. But what you need to understand is that the human brain is motivated by something. It's not just kind of like, doing its own thing. It's chasing certain sets of temptations at all times. And every action that you take, every single decision you make is usually in line with achieving one of these temptations. Now, once you understand what these temptations are, you're going to be able to use them to persuade and influence the human brain to make decisions that you want. And for example, such as to take immediate actions on your marketing. So let's now get into the core of temptations and how they actually affect decision-making and this whole process of action and behavior. And the best way to do that is to get into the core of the human brain by understanding the evolution of the human brain and how it got to where it is today. So we're going to do a quick review of this process, and what this is going to show you, the evolution of the human brain, is the different decision-making areas of the brain. There's actually 3 different areas that are specifically, targeted when it comes to our brains making decisions, and the brain actually makes different types of decisions when it is able to achieve temptations for each of these 3 different areas. Now you can see like what these names are right here, but let's start with the first one, the most important aspect, the core of our brain. So the evolution of the human brain actually began long before humanity, which is called the reptilian brain. The first part of our brain that we developed was this reptilian brain. Most land animals, including humans, descended from a single reptilian ancestor that came out of the ocean hundreds of millions of years ago. As you can see where it's located within our brain, it's right on top of the stem. It's the core of our brain. It's the oldest part of our brain in terms of evolution. And at this point, as reptiles, back hundreds of millions of years ago, we had only developed one area of the brain, which is that reptilian brain. Also known as the primitive or instinctive brain, this part of the brain is responsible for instinctive decision-making. Now we're getting into different types of decisions, right? So understand what, obviously I'm throwing out a lot of terms at you guys. Psychology is a complex subject, but what I want you to understand is the processes behind it, right? I'll send you my notes afterwards so you can see like the terms again, but what you need to understand is the types of decisions that each area of the brain makes. And when it comes to the reptilian brain, it makes instantaneous decisions based off its specific temptations, right? So now that we know the reptilian brain is responsible for making instinctive decisions, it's linked with survival. It's the first brain that we had in our early stages of evolution. What tempts the reptilian brain to make instinctive behavioral decisions? And to answer that question, we'll need to briefly touch on a classical psychological debate, which is nature versus nurture. Now, I'm not going to go into nature versus nurture, but what you need to understand, right, is when people bring up nature, the idea that we're biologically programmed with a certain set of temptations, with a certain set of desires or wants. In the nature versus nurture debate, what you need to understand is our reptilian brain represents the nature part of that debate. We all share the same exact reptilian brain, and it makes instinctive decisions based off very specific temptations that we are all biologically programmed by. Now, what are these specific temptations that motivate this reptilian brain? These specific temptations that the reptilian brain prioritizes are called desires, right? So this is what I want you to hold on to, the idea in the word of desires. Desires are the temptations that motivate and tempt the reptilian brain to take action, to behave, and to make instinctive decisions, decisions that it doesn't even need to think, decisions that are made automatically. All of our reptilian brains are biologically programmed with this set of desires that tempt us into making these instinctive decisions. These desires that tempt the reptilian brain, they're mostly survival related, right? You can kind of see, over time, the reptilian brain allowed us to make hundreds of these instinctive decisions on a daily basis. If we saw predators or we were in danger, we wouldn't think. You guys understand fight or flight. If we were hungry, we ate. If we were thirsty, we drank. If living conditions weren't comfortable, we built nests, we found holes, we got caves, right? So as when you think about this reptilian brain, you have to understand that when it comes to the reptilian brain's desires and what tempts the brain, it's these desires. And when the reptilian brain can achieve a desire, it makes an instantaneous decision to go achieve it. The beauty of the reptilian brain is, even though after hundreds of millions of years, the reptilian brain still remains as the core of our human brain, the core of our decision making, the quickest decisions that the brain makes. The next part of the brain is the mammalian brain, or the limbic brain. As you're probably realizing by now, the story of the brain is not even just the story of humanity, but it's a story of life itself. This brain that we have has been a product of evolution over hundreds of millions of years. And through this process, the second area we developed is called the mammalian brain. So around 250 million years ago, we evolved from reptiles into mammals, primates. And at this point, we developed the mammalian brain, otherwise known as the emotional or social brain. So now we're getting to another aspect. So the reptilian brain is revolved around and is tempted by desires, survival related desires, being able to extend your life, being able to care for your offspring, those types of more survival, immediate, instantaneous desires. Whereas the emotional brain, the mammalian brain, is motivated by emotions, right? So we started to become social creatures when we developed this area of our brain. We started living in packs. We developed social cues. We started to develop basic emotions. We felt love for our offspring. We expressed anger. We expressed enjoyment. And through this drastic change in lifestyle, our mammalian brain slowly developed its own decision-making process and its own specific temptations. Instead of desires for the reptilian brain, the specific temptations that the mammalian brain developed are known as emotions. And the mammalian brain became responsible for what we call emotional decisions. So you have the reptilian brain making instinctive decisions tempted by desires. You have the mammalian brain making emotional decisions tempted by achieving emotions. The mammalian brain allows us to make these quick emotional decisions based off, as you can guess, satisfying emotions such as enjoyment, happiness, any good emotion, or avoiding negative emotions like sadness and fear. These emotions that tempt the mammalian brain allowed us to build relationships and communities, greatly enhancing our survival and evolution. Now, this is the most recent part of our brain, which when I see most marketers today in social commerce, they are targeting this area of the brain. Now, like I said before, I said there's two forks in the road. I see a lot of people taking the logical approach. Now, this is what I was talking about. This is the part of the brain where everything changed, and this is the part of the brain that makes us uniquely human. The third and final area of the brain that we developed through evolution is called either the Neo-Mammalian brain or the neocortex. Neo meaning new. This is the newest brain. Around 5 to 8 million years ago, we evolved from mammals into hominids, and then very recently, 50,000 years ago, we had evolved into full-blown Homo sapiens, right? And through this part, we developed this neocortex. Now, as you can imagine, being the logical brain, this is exclusive to human beings. It's not something we share with other animals. This is the part of the brain that is tempted through nurture, right? So this is the part of the brain that is tempted through things that it has learned throughout your life, right? So once we developed the neo-mammalian brain, we were able to integrate logic into our decision-making process to enhance our survival, develop faster, build weapons. We became curious. We strove for efficiency, right? We started to express ourselves, developing languages, cultures. we were not known or born knowing how to build weapons and do these logical things, but these things are learned by the neo-mammalian brain through nurture. So the things that are logical that you chase in life, these are things that you've learned obviously through your upbringing that your neo-mammalian brain chases. When we use the neo-mammalian brain to make decisions, however, we make logical decisions that require consideration. Now, whenever you make logical decisions, it requires a lot of consideration, weighing your options, right? Taking your time, sleeping on it, and anytime you can think of yourself approaching logical decisions, that's the way you approach them, taking careful consideration. Just like the reptilian and the mammalian brains, the neo-mammalian brain has specific temptations that motivate it into making these logical decisions. And what those are called are wants, right? So as a quick review, we have wants, right, which motivate the neo-mammalian brain, which tempt the neo-mammalian brain to make logical decisions, which take time. We have emotions, which tempt the mammalian brain to make emotional decisions, which happen quicker, which are more irrational. We then have the reptilian brain tempted by these desires to make instinctive, immediate, instantaneous emotions. Now, as a review of this decision-making, you now understand kind of these three parts. Don't worry about what all the desires are. I'll send you a list later. What you need to understand is that process, those three areas. It's time for you to begin making that fundamental shift into psychological marketing. Now, the takeaways, the reptilian brain makes, like I said, instinctive decisions when it can achieve a desire. Tempting the reptilian brain with desires is what we call persuasion. Tempting the mammalian brain with emotions, when you can speak to someone and give them a way for them to achieve a positive emotion, that's influence, or alleviate a negative emotion, that's influence. The mammalian brain, when you tempt the mammalian brain with wants, when you say things like, oh, this is more efficient, you should do this, that's called convincing, which takes more time, takes careful consideration. So you can see right away, persuasion and influencing, we're talking to a different area of the brain than what logic would tell you to. Let's take a quick look at this universal temptations. I have a quick list that I'm going to send over to you guys. But let's take a quick look at what I mean by these, right? So here's some reptilian desires. And you can see a lot of them. The very first one, this is like probably what you expect, survival, right? Extension of life, any product, if your product can increase or improve, obviously customers' chance of survival, ability to reproduce. Now we're getting into more specific desires that we're all motivated by to chase instantaneously. If anything can increase the care, the health, the protection of your loved ones, these aren't things that you think twice about before taking action. You act on instantaneous instinct, right? Same as, the next one, increases social approval or standing. If your product, or you can allow people to feel more confident in the way they look or make them feel superior to others, this is something that our reptilian brains naturally chase because, as you know, back in the day, the slowest or the least superior animal in the pack, whatever it was, would usually be the one that was picked off. Survival was an issue, right? So as we develop this area of the brain, we develop these different desires. And like I said, the idea is not for you to memorize this. I'll send you a list. It's for you to understand that if you can allow your product and your marketing message to give a way for the reptilian brain to achieve these desires, you allow people to make an instantaneous decision rather than something with logic. Now, here's some of the emotions, right? When it comes to emotions are divided up into 5 major emotion groups. We have enjoyment, sadness, fear, anger, disgust, right? Here, for example, are words that can actually transfer or convey emotion to your customers while they're, consuming your marketing, right? And you can see like many different words and anything that can allow people to feel this enjoyment, they're achieving a positive emotion. It allows them to then go make more of an emotional decision, right? And you can see, like, I didn't give words for sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. I'll let you know why at the end. But these aren't, you don't want to be making people feel negative emotions, right? Obviously, the platforms don't like that. You want to focus more on the positive, right? If you can allow people to alleviate a negative emotion or achieve a positive emotion, then basically, you're going to allow people to make that emotional decision. Lastly, here's some wants, right? So this is pretty much probably the way a lot of people are marketing now. Brands are marketing, save time, save money, convenience, efficiency, durability, bargains, right? Take part in this exclusive, discount, that type of thing. So now let's circle back and finish this off, right? Now that we reviewed the 3 decision-making areas of the brain, let's circle back to impulse decisions. You've likely realized that to get the human brain to make an immediate decision, you'll need to speak to the reptilian and mammalian brain. Therefore, to evoke an impulse decision, you start with those areas. And by start, what do I mean? I mean, in your ad copy, hooks, scroll stoppers, right, in your product page above the fold, the first thing that customers should be seeing is a way for them to go and achieve a desire or positive emotion. And this is where you come full circle, and how you fully evoke impulse behavior. You must activate all three areas. So if the human brain can appeal to desires, emotions, and wants at the same time, it behaves without thinking. It acts on impulse, right? So let's wind this down. This is the last process, the last core concept for you guys to understand, is the process of implementing psychological marketing, called positioning. What you do is you position your product or offer to achieve temptations. Most brands, they're currently positioning for wants, as you can see on the right side of my screen. And I can't even blame them, because that's probably the logical thing to do. That's what you think is going to allow people to make that quick, instant decision, right? But when you sell people based off bargains, price, convenience, they go check Amazon, they go, consider, right? So let's end off with a couple of examples, just to kind of, give you a little bit of insight into how this process would work. And probably the most immediate, example I can give you is copywriting, right? So this is somewhere where you can visualize it, immediately see how it would work. So here we have some Neo-Mammalian feature marketing, right? And you guys are already familiar with features, benefits, right? This is pretty much what people market by. Features and benefits are very Neo-Mammalian, logic-based, right? So you see, these types of examples. You see, more benefit-based, right? So maybe some of you guys maybe aren't doing this, but greatly extends your range of motion for a knee brace, right? When you switch to psychological marketing and positioning, what you do is you position your benefits to achieve desires. So pressurizes important muscles and joints so you can start taking those daily walks again. Now, this is kind of like I said, I want to shift your mentality a little bit and introduce this concept for you guys to continue to explore and develop, right? But basically what you want to do is take advantage of these desires and be able to position products in your marketing to achieve these desires that allow people to make instantaneous and impulse decisions, right? And when it comes to why people buy anything, why people buy a knee brace, it's not so they can pressurize important joints, is what the knee brace and the lack of knee pain will allow them to do in their life, right? So another way to think of desires is the impact it has on your life. People aren't buying, a hair curler just to get curly hair. These women are buying the hair curler to go stand out, right? To get more attention, to be able to look better in public, to feel more superior to their peers. So, I threw in video example here. The copywriting is kind of like the most immediate example, but when it comes to videos, the way we do our videos is we send scripts fully built out with psychological marketing and kind of, the copywriting and the scenes, different desires we want to thread through. We send these to models and we have them kind of act out scenes. For example, for a knee brace, we would base the scene, the setting around actually, older people being able to spend more time with their grandchildren, being able to, start taking daily walks and so on, right? I have a couple more examples. You guys can go through them later on. I'll send you over the slides, right? But pretty much understand a couple of things, right? So what I just showed you is copywriting examples, which is most like immediate. You can start visualizing, you can start connecting benefits to desires. Psychological marketing, however, can be implemented in every facet of your marketing. If you're selling clothing, you have your actors and models make a scene not focusing on the shirt itself, not the fabric quality, but rather the attention the model is getting from people around them. If you guys are familiar with Dr. Squatch, right? These guys sell soap. Most people, the way they sell soap is, they talk about, the quality, the chemicals, no chemicals, this, that, right? If you see any of their ads, they have a bunch of people on a boardwalk. They have, women coming up to these guys, smelling them and talking about, oh my God, I wish my boyfriend smelled like that, right? You can see very quickly. And even when you start looking at these desires, they give you ideas to angle your marketing, right? To be able to achieve these different desires, to achieve impulse. If you can't ever think of a desire or emotion that your product appeals to, you construct your offer to position for one. For example, if you guys are familiar with Bombas, they sell socks, right? But if you are familiar with them, you know how they sell them. They built an e-commerce powerhouse appealing to the modern desire of improving society, right? So by building marketing strategy around giving away a pair of socks to every homeless shelters for every sock they sell, right? And there's a reason they start their marketing with something like, did you know that the #1 requested item in homeless shelters are socks every year, right? So pretty much, rather than some tactic or method, psychological marketing represents a new way of thinking, a shift in approach. And the more you learn and study psychology and how you can implement it, the more structure, focus, and prioritization you'll add to your overall marketing approach. But yeah, guys, in ending, right, I just want to say, when it comes to actually implementing psychological marketing, you notice how I never used any like specific desire word for word. I don't tell people, okay, this will increase care and protection of your loved ones. What you want to do is, and I'm sure you guys already do this, is research and profile your customers and your demographic and your market and write your marketing what we call customers language, right? So for example, like for the enjoyment of life desire, you could see right here, the enjoyment of life is represented by different language to potential customers of a back brace than it is to potential customers of a hairbrush that removes knots, right? So people with back pain, the way that you get through with that desire to them is be active with the grandchildren again. For people with knotted hair, you want to say more like remove pulling and tugging from the morning routine. And the way we do this internally, we have a profiling process where I'm sure a lot of you guys research your products, you compile benefits, features, right? But what you want to now add to that is desires, wants, and emotions, right? And our favorite profiling resources are forums, anywhere we could see firsthand customer language, them talking about how the product impacted their life. What we do is we utilize that language, right? So we go through YouTube videos, e-commerce reviews, Amazon, eBay, any of the platforms, public forums. We do a lot of focus groups as well, but you can start here. Once you finish profiling though, then you can start positioning your neo-mammalian marketing, the wants that you're currently positioning for, efficiency and all these things. You can start positioning now your benefits for emotions and desires, right? So I'll leave you with this. If you use negative emotions or a lack of achieving desires, right? So the negative aspect of this to put people down or bend the truth, every ads platform is going to ban you, and rightly so. Like I've been saying, like I didn't even give you guys words for the negative emotions, you want to operate with honor and never use influence or persuasion to make people feel bad about themselves. Leave the negativity and manipulation to the politicians. What you want to do is to use psychological marketing effectively, you need to focus on the positive. You must be focused on how your product or offer helps people achieve positive emotions and desires, how your product positively impacts people for the better. Right. So, and I'm sure it's by design, but the speakers that HyperSKU had on today's webinar represent a lot of the areas that are required, not just to stand out in social commerce, but to dominate it. Right. So Fire Apps, tools like Fire Apps, they allow you to build and enforce trust in your brand, have a branded look on your store. Psychological marketing, or any marketing that creates impulse at scale, right? In a marketing message that creates these impulse reactions, allows you to build winning marketing that tactically tempts customers to take impulsive action. Magics, tools, automation tools allow you to take winning marketing and scale it to the masses on autopilot. HyperSKU allows you to ensure airtight fulfillment at scale while ensuring customer success is a priority, right? So in conclusion, we haven't really even scraped the tip of the iceberg, guys. There's a lot more to it when it comes to psychology, but keep these main concepts, the 3 different decision-making areas of the brain, analyze your own marketing, realize what area are you speaking to. Likely it's going to be logic, but likely it's going to be the neo-mammalian brain. And you want to start augmenting your marketing, where earlier in your marketing, you want to start positioning for desires and positive emotions. And then still, of course, mention the logic stuff, but mention it further down the funnel. That's not going to get people to jump out and make impulse decisions, right? So I don't have much to offer to you guys today. I don't have a course to sell or anything. My agency only takes a handful of clients every quarter. Pretty much I made a decision in late 2020 to limit who would get access to our mass persuasion influence methods of marketing. I turned my past courses into an agency internal training that we used to train our team, where we can hire people, that we understand that are virtuous. They want to leave the world a better place. The few brands we work with, we usually seek them out. Therefore, what I decided to offer you is maybe a little bit more value to build upon these concepts of psychological marketing. So I've opened up a few days, couple weeks in my schedule where you can schedule a 30-minute consultation, or we'll call it like a psychological marketing audit with myself and my team, where we focus on one specific area of your marketing and we provide insights on how we would implement psychological marketing to help you stand out in commerce, right? So inside our agency, we have, entire systems where we still build the same stuff you do, funnels, custom videos, we send scripts to actors, models, and build a fully professional suite of marketing. However, we have psychology embedded into every single aspect. So what we can do on these calls, a 30-minute Zoom call taken by myself or someone on my team, where, we will dissect one area of your marketing, what you feel like you need more help in conversions with, whether it's your email sequence or whatever it is, and we'll give you tips in terms of what systems we would implement to be able to increase the impulse conversions consistency so you can go and scale. So, to close it off, hope you guys have taken a little bit of value from my training. More importantly, open up your eyes to a different type of marketing, a different mentality to approach. Best of luck in social commerce for the rest of this year. And I hope to see you guys. Best of luck. And sorry if I went a little bit overboard.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you have a summary for each of the speaker. And I'm just like having a I'm just like having a
Yeah,
psychological marketing lecture.
Of course, right? I
Yeah,
kind of wanted to
yeah,
I feel like this is a missing link for a lot of people in social commerce where, they're having trouble scaling or consistency in their conversions and their scale. So this is kind of like that missing link for a lot of people I found where, once you're implementing things in your marketing to persuade, influence ethically, of course, right? You want to be making sure you're making people achieve desires, not using the opposite of it, right? But yeah, implementing these types of things allow you to scale more consistently, use tools like Magics and of course have HyperSKU to make sure all the customer fulfillment is on point. But yeah, I appreciate, kind of you having me on and so I could share the value. And I feel like a lot of people will take a lot from this.
yeah. Thank you so that's all. That's the end of our webinar. And thanks everyone for joining us. We will send out an email, like follow-up email, and you can discuss with all the speakers. And all the speakers, they're also give the giveaways to you. So please do check your email, and we're gonna send out the email tomorrow.
All right,
So
guys.
and also
Take
don't
care.
worry. Okay. And also don't worry if you miss any part of the webinar. We record everything and we'll share on HyperSKU's YouTube channel. You can check around in a week. Okay. And don't be a stranger. If you do have any questions, please please reach us on hypersku.com. Okay. So thank you all and see you next time. Bye bye.